right, Mr. Sanchez here in the auto shop again. We're going to talk about how to safely use a two-post hoist. So this is probably one of the most common pieces of equipment you'll use in the shop, and it's probably also one of the most dangerous. So reason being, you're lifting a several thousand-pound machine up into the air using this hoist. If that machine slides, falls, slips, it could fall and crush you and kill you or somebody else nearby. That being said, if used safely, we don't have concerns with this machine. So, a couple of the things that we want to be aware of while we're working in the shop. Of course, we try to wear our gloves, especially working around chemicals in the shop, and we put our safety glasses on. The next thing that we're going to be concerned with is pulling a vehicle in. So when you pull a vehicle in, there is a procedure for how the vehicle should be set up. First of all, if you do have an N license, I will allow you to pull a vehicle in. However, it is under my supervision and with my guidance, and nobody else is in the shop. If you have an L license, unfortunately, you are not allowed to pull a vehicle in on your own accord. So I will guide you in, or I will drive it in at that point. Pushing in, a little bit of a different story. If the engine's not running, we'll talk about that. When a vehicle comes into the shop, it has to have the driver's side window down. Reason for that is we don't lock keys in the ignition, and we have access to the controls if we need to in an emergency. Okay? The next thing is that the vehicle needs to be in park, or it needs to be in gear if it is a standard. That way the vehicle can't rock around. E-brake should be on, especially where we're setting it up on the hoist to lift it. And one more thing, we should have chocks, which are these things right here. These should be placed the front and rear of one of the wheels. Okay, so I'm going to do that right now that we've pulled this in. Chocks are there. This vehicle is now not at risk of rolling around all over the place and potentially injuring somebody in the shop. Keys are in the ignition. Make sure you don't leave your lights on. We don't need dead batteries in the shop. Otherwise, we're going to have to chase all those problems around and try to jump start them and charge the batteries. So make sure that the key is in the off position if it is in the ignition, and that your lights aren't on or some other accessory isn't on, like a stereo or a heater motor or something like that. Okay, everything is in its place. The car is here safely. Let's talk about some of the anatomy of this machine as well. So these are the upright columns here. All of the controls for the machine are on this side. They can be on either side, so just judge by the hoist that you're using. On our other hoist, they're on the opposite side. But the major controls here that you want to be aware of are the safety release right here, the power button here that controls this electric hydraulic unit, and the release lever right here. What these all do, this green button here raises the lift, this one here on the side lowers the lift, and this removes the safety locks. We never ever work on something unless it is down in what we call the safety locks, and I'll show you what that looks like when we lift the vehicle up in the air. So setting up a vehicle to lift it, it's important to look at the arms, the lift arms underneath, and position them in the correct spot. If we don't get them in the correct spot, a vehicle could come toppling off of the hoist. Every time you lift a vehicle, call me over. I am going to check your lift points before that vehicle is lifted up in the air. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to look for a pinch weld or something on the side here that adequately can hold the weight of our lift. All right, so we may need to adjust some of these feet on the hoist to accommodate different heights or different lifting spots on the vehicle. Again, if you're unsure, come and find me before you lift up the vehicle, and I will check them out and make sure that they're safe. So let's go about checking that out. All right. That looks good to me on that side. All right. Again, we're looking for a seam down the side. Usually there's an outcropping or a bump or something that's a lift point, that's a designated lift point for the vehicle. All right. There we are. And of course, we're going to have to do it on the opposite side as well. All right, at this stage, once we have the lift points in place and the lift arms where we want them, you're going to come find me. I'm going to check them out. I'm going to say, those look great. That looks like a safe lift. And then we're going to proceed. So, when we're lifting the vehicle, what we need to do is first start with this green button right here. Green button, again, is the control to lift it. So, slowly, we bring the arms up to the vehicle. All right, and as we see it start to lift, we're listening, we're looking, okay? And we're going to stop there, and that's actually where we're going to check again. So you're going to get me to come around and check all of your different lift points, whether they're adequate or not, and then we're going to stop there, okay? And you're going to get verification from me. At this point, I'm going to teach you a couple of points that we need to know about lifting the vehicle in the shop and the procedure that goes along with that. When you start to lift up in the air, one of the first things we're going to do is a safety check. Before all of that, what we're going to do is announce that we're moving the vehicle up in the air. Now, the general rule is that we don't want anybody within 2 feet of a vehicle. 3 feet even better, 4 feet even better. We know that we have a tight shop in here, but 2 feet's the general rule. We don't want anybody within 2 feet while we're lifting or lowering a vehicle anytime that we're using the hoist. Reason being, somebody's feet could get crushed, somebody could get knocked over, somebody could bump the vehicle that you're lifting, right? Okay, so we're going to announce that we're lifting the vehicle. Your choice of words, what you want to use, I generally use going up. And we're going to lift to the point that we hear the first click. That is the first safety lock. That click was the first safety lock. All right. We are going to drop it onto that lock by using this lever right here. Again, this is what drops it. If I'm not controlling this lever, that means that the locks are always engaged and that it's going to drop itself if I lower this onto a lock. We're going to check the vehicle while it's low like this. A vehicle falling off a hoist at this height is a lot less dangerous than a vehicle falling off a hoist at this height. So we're going to give it a little shake and just check, make sure we don't hear any clicking or any rocking around of the hoist. It seems very stable to me. Again, have a look at all the different points, and it looks good to me. So from this point, we could lift it up further, maybe up to the next lock, but general rule, we never ever go underneath a vehicle or work underneath a vehicle unless it is dropped onto the safety locks, and I'll show you what that looks like. So that last click right there, there are several points where this vehicle will lock on the hoist. Once you hear that click, we leave this lever alone and we drop this. Now, either side of the vehicle could lock at any point, and you might end up with 2 different locks being met if you were halfway in between. Pay attention when you lower it down onto those locks that either side is engaged at the same spot and that the vehicle isn't tipping. So we want to keep an eye at all times. It's not a bad idea to have another partner working with you or myself, whoever is free, to watch the vehicle as it's moving. So listen to the people around you, listen to what's going on in the shop, watch what's going on with the vehicle at any given time that it is moving on the hoist. So it's in the lock. At this point, it would be safe to go underneath it, perform some work, and finish it off. If you had tools underneath, you're going to want to make sure those are moved out of the way. A big issue with a hoist is people forgetting that they're leaving lights, other types of tools like an oil catch or something like that sitting underneath. They drop the hoist and it lands on top of that equipment. So always clear everything out before you lower down. And I'm going to show you how to lower the hoist down. So the first part that you need to know is press this green button right here. That's going to lift the vehicle up out of the locks. Okay? And we want to lift it, but we don't want to lift it to the point where we hear that click again. Just up a little bit before we hear the next click noise of the lock. Okay? Now that we have it up out of the lock that it was sitting on, we want to use the safety release knob right here and press that all the way down. Once that's pressed all the way down, we're going to hold it there, and we're also going to use this lever right here to drop it down. What's important before you do that is to, again, check that everything is out of the way, and of course, check for people. Announce that you're coming down. Coming down! Look around underneath the vehicle. There's nothing in the way. Nobody is within 2 feet of the vehicle. And we're coming down. So it's important at this point to keep an eye that the vehicle, again, is not tilting on one side or the other, that maybe one of the locks accidentally engaged while we were dropping it, that it's coming down nice and evenly. And we're going to drop this down all the way to the point, remembering that we had our wheel chocks there. Make sure those are still there, because if this comes down and it's not in gear and it rolls away, we've got some damage, okay? Something dangerous. So unlock it all the way down to the bottom there till it stops, till those arms, those hoist arms stop. That releases the locks on the hoist arms. We can then push the hoist arms out of the way. That is very, very important when you're using the hoist. We want those hoist arms right out of the way so that they don't get caught on the vehicle when the vehicle gets pulled out. All right, same goes on the other side. And that's how you use the two-post lift. Last point that I kind of want to make with this thing, every one of these hoists has a capacity of the amount of weight that it can lift. Never ever lift a vehicle that is over the capacity of the hoist. If you're unsure, come find me and I'll show you where you can find the vehicle weight on the sticker. On the hoist itself, the sticker is right here. In this case, this hoist can support 9,000 pounds. The other red two-post hoist can support 10,000. So check your vehicle weight, check with me, ensure that the vehicle is safe to lift before you use the hoist. Final thing I'm going to say is we always get permission before we use the hoist. We never ever use the hoist without permission in this shop. So I hope you learned something about two-post hoists and the safety, and I hope in the future you'll be able to use these in a very safe manner. Thanks.